Create a light flare. We're going to use this light flare to go ahead and create it as a brush, which will then allow us to use that in other areas. And then we'll also look at how we can take just this light flare brush and use it to go ahead and create some light rings as well. So flashes have actually become a standard design element that we see in a lot of composite work. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and we're going to grab ourselves a flare image. Any image will work. Just look online, find a flare, and we're going to get started with the image itself. Now, when we go through and we start dealing with brushes, remember brushes work off of black and white. Being that the black content becomes part of our brush and the white will actually go through and become transparent. So as we grab this lens flare, at this point we first need to go ahead and turn this over to a grayscale. So we're going to go ahead and desaturate the image. So we're going to go Command-Shift-U. So go ahead and desaturate it, and then as mentioned we need to have the black to be part of our brush. So we're going to go ahead and hit Command-I, which simply goes through and inverts the image. Now with this inverted, what we have on here is we have a lot of grays that are still included inside of the image. So we're going to go ahead and adjust our levels. To do that, we can hit Command-L, and it'll take us into our levels adjustment. At this point, we can begin to move these. So we're going to get a little bit more with the black. We can also play with what we have as our mid-tone grays. We can also slide down for what we have here related to the white. So as we work with that, we can see how much or how little gray that we want to have inside of there. So we can go ahead and we can move these. Again, we can have a lot, or we can go ahead and simplify it down to have just a little. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and adjust these. Go ahead and leave mine right about here. With the set, we're going to go ahead and say OK. So at this point, we've gone in and we've decided what areas do we want to have as part of our brush. Again, dealing with the blacks. So now we go ahead and come up here to Edit. We can go ahead and define Brush Preset. It's going to come into here, and let's just go ahead and call this Flare. I'm going to give it a number of 3. I have some other flare ones on here. And we're going to go ahead and say OK. So now what's happened is we've just gone in and we've defined ourselves a brush that is that flare shape. We look at the top, we're going to see here that we have one set. It's at 1217. It's at 1217 because if we go in and look at the size of our document, that is the actual width of the current file. So 1217 pixels. So we have this set. If you're seeing simply the crosshairs, so if you're not seeing the brush itself, you're seeing the crosshairs, it's because the brush is actually too large. If you go ahead and hit the begin brackets, it'll come down so we can see then what exactly does that brush look like. We can go ahead if we want to, we can click and it will show how it's going to go in there and work. We can go ahead and we can reduce that down. The file that we have open right now isn't going to matter much because the file that we have open was simply used to go in and create this brush. So if we want to go in and see what we can do with this, we can jump inside of another image or open another image. And now we can go ahead and say what's going to happen with this brush. So if I come in here and look at these highlight areas, I can click. Now you don't see much on that because of where the size of it, but if I come in here, we can start to then use the brush. The other thing we can also work with, if we have certain areas that we want to go ahead and create a highlight to, if I come in here and grab a hold of a color, we say OK. I can come out here by simply creating a new layer. I can come out here and click for that, but then take this and we can rotate this around so we see that we get the line following the street. Now we can have that in that location. If I wanted to come through and work with, say, a blue up here, I can go ahead and I can click on there. Switch our color a little bit. So we have the blue on there, same thing. I can transform this. I can rotate this around. We can position this. And then since it is on its own layer, I can always drop the opacity down on that as well. So this is a way to quickly go in and give us a brush, be able to work with a brush and define it from what we have as a preset.